Hi everybody and welcome to this new lesson. This will be continuation of the previous lesson of log collection and DSM development. Actually, we will focus in this lesson on the Windows logs collection. So basically the use of the IBM WinCollect software. So WinCollect is a very unique software by IBM. It's free. You can download and use it free of charge. There is no license required for it. It's one of the best Windows events collection tools that I worked with. It has a lot of options and flexibilities. So I dedicated this lesson for the WinCollect because the deployment for the WinCollect has different modes and requires proper planning. So actually there is WinCollect 7 and WinCollect 10. WinCollect 10 is just released this year and it's a new release and has a lot of improvements than Windows 7, WinCollect 7. We will cover the WinCollect 10 at the end of this lesson. It still has some limitations, despite that it has a lot of improvements in terms of performance of collection. However, it's limited to one mode of deployment only. So that's why we will focus, most of the part of this lesson will be focusing on WinCollect 7. And then at the end, as I said, we will cover WinCollect 10 as well. So IBM documentation, as I said, is very good, and it covers the WinCollect software deployment, prerequisites, installation, everything. So here I can see I opened many URLs, and all these links I will include in the next lesson as an article, so you can guys check these links on your own. However, I will go through them and we will do hands-on as well along with the theoretical part. So the first lesson we will go through it is the WinCollect overview. Okay, so the WinCollect overview. So basically you have two modes of deployment. You have the managed mode of deployment and you have the standalone mode of deployment. So this, by the way, is for the QRadar on premise. So for the QRadar on cloud, the managed deployment is not available. Okay, so what is this all about? Actually, you will have this. You have the QRadar appliance, and you can install the WinCollect on any Windows host you would like to collect the logs from it locally. Okay, so for example, this is your domain controller. This is your Windows server, or Windows endpoint. So you can collect the you can install the WinCollect agent, and it can collect the logs locally here. Also, the WinCollect agent can connect to a remote Windows host and collect and pull the logs, so it can collect the logs from remote Windows hosts that has no WinCollect software installed. Okay, same thing for the standalone. If we go here, you will find the same idea: QRadar appliance, and you have the Windows host with the local host with WinCollect software installed here, and you can collect or pull the logs remotely. So what is the difference between the two? Actually, if you notice that the only difference is the line here, or the arrow here, is bi-directional. So with the managed deployment example, you are actually managing the agents from the QRadar appliance itself. So you can push configuration and you can pull status. Okay, so this managed mode of deployment is favorable in some scenarios where you can manage the agents from the QRadar console itself. However, it has some limitations, as we will explain shortly. For the standalone, you will notice that the arrow is one direction only. So the Windows host is just sending status or sending events. Okay, so it's not bi-directional. So the QRadar appliance has no control on the agents. However, the agents can simply point to the QRadar appliance and send the logs. So same idea in terms of collection. You can collect locally or you can connect remotely. Here for the managed case, or here for the standalone case, you can collect locally. This yellow box is collecting locally on these servers, or remotely on these blue boxes, and these blue boxes or blue servers has no WinCollect software installed. The only difference that for the standalone, the agent here is reporting to the QRadar appliance. The QRadar appliance has no control or visibility on this Windows on this WinCollect software installed. However, in that case, you can have the visibility from the QRadar appliance, and you can push configuration updates and so on. So to return to the difference, actually you can see here this is the capability along with the feature is available or not available. So based on the situation or the scenario you have, you select the best option that suits your case. So there is no best option absolutely or as an absolute case. No, it is case by case. And also, before going through this, there is a very important thing that in managed deployment, the WinCollect is designed to work with up to 500 Windows agents only. So you can install and control 500 Windows agents. Okay, so if you are looking beyond 500 agents, then you have to go to the standalone. So this is one of the main points of difference between the two. Is an example about deployment with a console, event processor, and event collector. So it's telling us that each can support up to 500 Windows agents or 500 WinCollect agents. Okay, so the total will be 3 times 500 equal 1500. So we can understand from this that you can control the WinCollect agents with either console or event processor or event collector. So it's 500 Windows agents per console and managed host, and the managed host here means console, event processor, or event collector. So you cannot control with flow collector or flow processor or with let's say app host or a data node. No, these are the 3 managed hosts that you can use to control WinCollect agents in a managed deployment. Okay, so in this example we have 3 managed hosts multiplied by 500, so up to 1500. So as we said, if you need to more than that, you have to go for the standalone deployment. Okay, so returning back to the table, we can see the differences between the two. So for example, here there is a difference that you can make central management from the QRadar console or managed host. So this is the managed WinCollect installation, okay, or deployment. Okay, another difference here that you can see, you can forward events on a set schedule, store and forward. This is only from the managed WinCollect. So if it is a big consideration for your customer that you want to make some forwarding or schedule the forwarding of the log sources, the Windows log sources at certain schedules. So in batch mode, let's say in the night during low traffic periods. So it's better to go for the managed WinCollect because this feature is only available with the managed WinCollect. It's not available with the standalone. However, if you are looking for the WinCollect configuration console, you can go for the standalone WinCollect. If you prefer the WinCollect configuration console over the managed way of doing it from the console, the QRadar console itself, so you go for the standalone. As we said, the managed WinCollect is not available in the cloud, and all the other features are supported. So for example, support installation of the WinCollect on virtual machines, it's okay. And this is very important, that the QRadar console can send software updates to WinCollect agents. So actually you can merge this with this. So central management from the QRadar console or managed hosts, including that you can send software updates to the agents. Okay, so this is one of the key advantages of the managed WinCollect. So the upgrade is much easier than the standalone, which you need to do it one by one, or you have to rely on some batch software like the Microsoft SIEM or any other thing like IBM has BigFix or some other deployment tool to upgrade and push. Okay, there is XPath. We will learn about the XPath. Both are supporting it. You can use the Microsoft subscriptions, so instead of getting the logs individually from each and every server and endpoint, you can have one server called the Microsoft Collector server or Windows Event Forwarder Collector, where you can make all the endpoints or the server subscribe to this server, and then you collect the logs from there. So the agent installed on the web server or the collector server can read the logs from the event viewer or the event logs of the collector. We will come to this. There is a nice use case about this from IBM. We can just go through it quickly. Both of them support to store the events to ensure that no events are dropped, but this is different from this one, which allows us to forward events on set schedule. So take care of this. Okay guys, so let's move now to another important thing about the deployment planning. Okay, so these are set of questions that you need to discuss with the Windows IT group or the people responsible for the Windows infrastructure for collecting the logs in the best approach. So first, which Windows endpoint do I need to collect from? You should have a classification between the high value servers, or the servers typically generate high event rate, and we will know about the three profiles that the WinCollect agent is supporting. So you can, when configuring installing the WinCollect agent, you can specify the profile that suits the log sources or the Windows sources that you are collecting from. So this is important to understand the classification between the different log sources. It's not just flat and you are collecting from every log source equally. So for example, if it's a domain controller or a web server, you are expecting that these are high EPS servers and they have also high importance. Also, are you allowed to install a WinCollect agent on this endpoint or not? So actually these two are more or less related, because as we will see shortly, for high EPS servers like domain controllers, web servers, for high EPS servers, it's recommended to install the agent locally, because when you if you are considering remote polling, actually the server could be busy to an extent that the remote polling will not be so reliable like local collection. Okay, so the next question will be type, can I install the agent locally or not? Some policy in the customer environment may prevent you from doing this, so leaving only the choice of remote polling. However, if this choice is available, so the discussion can be taken into that direction. Also, will this endpoint require more configuration changes? Like in the point of sale devices, they are typically low EPS and rarely require up. However, for domain controllers, they require frequent configuration changes. So these questions may affect your mode of deployment, whether it's managed or standalone. Where are these endpoints located? So what is the line of sight of this endpoints? So this is very important question. So these endpoints are able to reach the console or the event collector or the event processor. So do they have visibility or not to this? So it's not just to count that I have one console, one event collector, one event processor, so I can manage. If I choose the managed deployment, I can manage 1500. No, agents, because maybe the agents are does not have visibility or line of sight to this managed hosts. Okay. Other questions as well is there. What data do I need to collect? So actually the WinCollect agent is able to collect not only Windows logs, it can collect DHCP, IIS, DNS logs. So this needs to be discussed along with, of course, the standard Windows logs, the application system security, and the sysmon as well. And in this lesson, we will go through collecting sysmon and PowerShell from the WinCollect, which requires the definition of something called XPath, which is actually XML expression that point to where in the Windows event viewer where the sysmon and the PowerShell logs are located. So you just overriding the XPath inside the WinCollect configuration can allow you to collect these logs. How much will my EBS increase? So for example, you need to know the EPS of the average EBS of your endpoints for your servers, and make sure that your license will be able to cover all of this. So this is a nice example that if you have event collectors that can handle 40,000, however, in the rush hours the EPS may spike to 80,000. So you have to consider this. Are the event collectors will be able to handle this load after the traffic returns to normal state or not? So this is important as well. And here are some testing done by IBM about the average EBS and peak EBS for the different kind of Windows log sources, like endpoints. It's the average is 0.005, very low, and the peak is like 0.05. The domain controllers can range from 5 to 350, and same for the web servers. So the DNS is much lower, and the database. So all of this should be considered, and this rough calculations or testing results can help you to size your deployment. The key question: do I need to install managed or standalone? So you can install on an environment that's managed by QRadar as a standalone agent, or a combination of both. So you can actually have the WinCollect agents in hybrid mode. Yani hybrid mode means that some are running standalone agents and some are running managed. So there is no restriction about mix and match between the two modes. Okay. And here the advantage for the managed, as we said, that the code updates and configurations are provided by the console to the agent installed on the Windows endpoint. This is the key thing. The option require this communication, what data the agent will collect by adding log sources in the QRadar console. So the management is done by the customers. By accessing the QRadar console, they can actually add the log sources through management of the agents. So actually the agents will be seen by the QRadar console, and you can add log sources through the console. The agent require access to port 514 to send, or TCP to send the syslog data to the QRadar. Exceed the managed limitation. Customer typically choose managed installation to maintain control of WinCollect. So this is like a rule of thumb that if you have a small deployment, so the maximum managed agent count of 500 per managed host is still under the limit. You can go for the managed deployment, because customer typically choose this mode of deployment to control of WinCollect code and configuration changes. So this is the limitations for the managed. So if you want to manage your QRadar, your WinCollect agents, the recommended limit is 500 agents per console or managed host. So to install WinCollect on 1200 endpoints in managed mode, divide the endpoints between the console and event processor. So 200 endpoints per console, 500. So here actually it's assuming local collection. So actually the agents are per endpoint. So 200 endpoint means that each endpoint will have an agent, and 500 endpoint means that each endpoint here has an agent. So actually you will have 1200 agents. However, we know that there is a limit of 500 agents per console managed host. So 200 will be pointing to the console, 500 will be pointing to the first event processor or collector, and 500 will be pointing to the second event collector or processor. Okay, so if you are considering remote polling for the agent are actually polling remote Windows servers or endpoints, so the number may be more. Okay, so this is the QRadar managed limitations. Okay, you have to consider it. So as you see, if it's small deployment, managed mode of deployment is preferred. In standalone, the WinCollect agent is not managed. The only communication the agent has with QRadar is through the 514. So no more this communication is not there in the standalone. To upgrade this agent, you need to reinstall the agent or use the batch installer to update the code. So there is two software that you can install from the IBM Fix Central. You can install the Windows agent itself, okay, so the first installation, or you can use the batch installer to update the code if you want to do so. Currently, the batch installer is a separate installation provided by IBM that includes code updates and the WinCollect configuration console. So you have two things installed inside the batch installer. The first thing is the code updates for the existing installation of the WinCollect agent and the WinCollect configuration console. As we said, in the standalone deployment, you can install something called WinCollect configuration console to manage the configuration of the standalone agents. Okay, so we have two software, as I said, the WinCollect agent software itself for first installation, and the batch installer for upgrades, and also it can include the WinCollect configuration console. So to make configuration changes, you need to either install the WinCollect configuration console GUI tool or make changes directly to the agent's configuration. Like one by one, you go for each and every standalone WinCollect installation and do the configuration change, which is not realistic. So for large deployments, customer typically choose standalone installation, so they can control the installation and configuration using BigFix or Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager. So actually, this is the situation for large deployments. So customers are not they don't want to rely on the managed feature of QRadar. They already have their deployment tools like Microsoft System Center or any other tool. So why to go to QRadar and rely on their managed way of controlling the agents? Or already we are using our System Center to push the software or other monitoring solutions or other updates or other things through this deployment tool. So customers always, or in most of the times, would like to unify the tools for the objective or the function. So they don't want to have some administrator who is managing multiple tools for doing the same task. So he is already doing using system center configuration for pushing software updates and pushing agents and whatever. So why to use the agent? So in that case, they choose the standalone mode of deployment, and they rely on their own tools to make the installation. Okay, so in that case, they can use the WinCollect agent, the first piece of software, to install for all the environment, and later on, when they want to make upgrades or configuration changes, they can use the batch installer. So changes to the configuration can be made using templates, which will allow you to make changes to the agent config.xml. So this is the one that you can go and edit directly inside each and every WinCollect agent installation. Okay, or you can make this through templates. Okay, so two modes of collection. Not two modes of deployment. Two modes of deployment, we already said, the standalone and the managed. Two modes of collection, so either local collection or remote collection. So for local collection, the maximum EBS supported is 5,000. For remote collection, the maximum EBS supported is 2,500 across 500 remote endpoints. So just take care, guys, that this 500 remote endpoints is different from the limitation that we said for the managed deployment mode. The managed deployment mode has a limitation of 500 agents per console managed host. Okay, so if you are considering the local collection, so in that case, this 500 agents will be 500 endpoints. Okay, and that's why when we talked about this example, it turns out to the 1200 endpoints are just divided by the 500. So maximum you can use 500 for this one, 500 for this one, and the remaining 200 for this one. So you need at least 3 managed hosts. Okay, but here we are talking about the limit on the endpoints itself. So for the remote collection, if you have any agent that is doing remote collection, it can collect from maximum 500 remote endpoints. So if you have a managed deployment along with remote collection, you have to consider both limits. You have a limit on the number of agents, and you have a limit on the number of endpoints. So returning back to this example, if we are considering remote polling only, as we said, this was assuming local collection. So if we assuming remote polling for managed deployment, so each host can collect from 500 agents, and each agent can collect from 500 endpoints. So actually each managed host will end up with the capability to collect from maximum 25,000 to 150,000 actually. So simply I will just put this for you as an example to clear it out, how flexible the deployments in using WinCollect. So if we are considering managed deployment plus remote polling, so we have two limits. So we have 500 agents per managed host, and we have here the 500 endpoints maximum for remote polling. So in that case, we have console, we have event processor or collector, and we have event processor or collector 2. So here you can actually put maximum 500 managed agents, 500 managed agents, okay, managed agents multiplied by 500 endpoints, okay, so the total will be 250,000 endpoints. So still you can use a managed deployment mode for very big setups, as we can see. So also you can the same calculation apply for this one and for this one. So you can see like almost 1 million endpoints with this, while with the standalone there are no limits on the numbers, okay, as long as you have the license, you have everything covered. So the WinCollect agent is installed in the endpoint in either managed or standalone for both modes. Only thing to consider here, why to choose local or remote collection, is how heavy the event per second rate. So as we said, the hosts that are busy or have limited resources, like the domain controllers or the web servers, typically, or it's favorable to use a local collection, okay. And you can use the local collection where when you don't want to worry about managing credentials, like the domain controller guy will not share with you his credentials to make remote collection. So in that case, you will give him the agent and ask him to install it locally. Also, when you don't want to care about adding or subtracting endpoints as they came online, so for the case of remote collection, you need to connect to this or delete this, or so the only thing here, it will be installed actually using SIEM or the Microsoft SIEM or other deployment tool. So it will be controlled actually not by you as a QRadar admin, it will be controlled by the guys who manage the batching or the software deployment in the environment. Also, the agent can be included in the base image of the master image of your Windows environment. So for remote collection, you must provide the login credential for user with remote event log access, which is the log reader access, and it require access to this ports, okay. And so the 135 is the endpoint number. So when you connect using remote procedure calls to the remote host that you want to get the logs from, it actually will negotiate with you on all these ports and then assign some dynamic port from that range to make the communication. So, and actually to know some servers may have different dynamic range, so to know about this you can issue this command on the server. So if you do this, actually you will get the range that you can tell the firewall team to open for you. And actually the protocol used is the Microsoft Event Protocol, which uses port 445 for the event logs to be collected, okay. And this services or this inbound rules on the server should be allowed. So any server should allow RPC calls and remote event log management calls, okay. This is the talk about the Windows event forwarding. It's a big topic, and Microsoft has nice take notes about this, so I encourage you to check this out. Also, this is not your task as a QRadar admin or professional service doing implementation. Actually, you can share this with the customer and tell him this is another way of collecting the logs. It will make your life easier, and you have to get someone from Microsoft, like a professional service from Microsoft, or any expert from Microsoft to configure this event forwarding to some collector server or some central server. So actually it's easy thing that like you have 1000 endpoint, all of them are sending to central Windows event forwarder server, and then you install the collector, the Windows the WinCollect agent on this web server instead of each and every one. Okay, so it's a straightforward and it's reliable solution as well. Okay, so we have two use cases here. Large retail point of sale collection. So you have like 4,500 point of sale. You have like 500 retail stores. You have one console, two event collectors. So looking at this count, so here you can say if I consider the managed deployment mode, I can control like 500 agents here and another 1,000 agents, so 1,500 agents. So one may say I can put like one agent in the 500 stores, and then I can even distribute the 500 agents among the three. So it seems that managed deployment is feasible and standalone as well. So, but there actually a point of consideration, as I explained a while ago, that the visibility is important. So this is something you need to discuss about the infrastructure. So for example, here's no visibility of the point of sale devices outside the retail store. So you have here the QRadar deployment, and this is one retail store. So the managed deployment here is not feasible, because if you install the agent here, you will not be able to manage it actually, because there is no line of sight between the managed host and the agents. So what is happening here actually is that you have here a web server. Okay, so that you have a domain controller per site. So actually the domain controller we will make it as a web server. So the web server, as I just explained guys, is just a collector. So all the point of sales are forwarding their event logs to the web server. So this server actually was a domain controller. It will act also with as another role, which is web server, Windows event forwarder. So everyone is forwarding the events to this so we can call it simply a web server or collector. Okay, so the domain controller, since it has a line of sight to all the point of sales, they will collect or consolidate the logs of the point of sales, and all you need is to install one Windows Collect agent here, and the WinCollect agent will monitor the forward event logs, and then the forward event logs are sent to the QRadar event processor or the event collector to be sent to the QRadar console. The events are auto discovered by QRadar via traffic analysis. So the QRadar will be able to create one syslog log source per endpoint. So this is auto created. So as we discussed in the previous lesson, the log source creation is either done automatically or manually. Most of the time it's automatically, but in some cases you need to do it manually. So fortunately here it's automatically, otherwise we have to add one by one the point of sale devices. So this is one option. Okay, so actually the point of sale endpoints, they subscribe to the web server through GPO policy, and the events are logged to Windows event log, and the events matching the subscription are sent to the domain controller web server. So the GPO is sending the GPO is applied to the point of sale, and which events existing inside the point of sales Windows event log that match the subscription are sent. So the subscription actually allows us to filter even events that are sent to the web server. Okay, so these are the advantages and disadvantages. The problem of this, that you need a WEF server per store, since we have 500 stores. So this means that you will have 500 WEF servers, and the IT group of this organization will need to monitor these 500 WEF collection servers to make sure WEF is configured and working. So actually this is something may pose some headache on the organization. And the WEF must be configured on the domain controller, which may be some limitation, or the domain controller is very sensitive server, so adding this heavy function to it, may not be feasible. There is another option. So if the point of sales have visibility outside the retail store, in that case, instead of putting the load on the domain controllers, you can have the WEF servers or the WEF collectors in another zone outside the retail stores, like in the headquarter or the data center or whatever. And the same thing is done, but this time to the WEF servers, and you can size the number of WEF servers to, actually there is one recommendation from Microsoft that each WEF server can handle like 10,000 endpoints. Actually the endpoints that we have here is only 4,500, so one WEF server can handle, or maximum 2 if you want to load the to balance the load. So now the IT group will manage only 2 WEF servers instead of managing like 500. So this option is more appropriate than the previous one. However, the disadvantage that the point of sales devices need visibility outside of the retail store. Another option is to make the, and for sure guys, the WinCollect agent is installed on the WEF server. Here the WinCollect agent, you need 500 WinCollect agents actually, and you can choose either for the first option you can choose either the standalone or the managed, because we still have we are at the limit, like 500 agents on 500 domain controllers. They can be managed by the same event collector processor. Here you will just have 2 WinCollect agents on the 2 WEF servers. Okay, if you consider if you are considering WinCollect agent per point of sale, this is the standalone deployment. So you have like 4,500 agents, or all of them are just sending to the TCP or UDP 514 to the QRadar. So actually this option is the option that large customers use to make WinCollect part of the golden base image that is installed. So any point of sale that you spin off and use, it's already having the agent installed, configured to point to the QRadar. They are even managing things after that using the some deployment tools like the SIEM. Okay, so the customer can spin up new registers or point of sales at any time and have the WinCollect configured for him. And this requires that the agent to be installed on the point of sale device to have visibility into the appliance, or to have visibility to some if the appliance is installed inside the store, or it has visibility to someone some managed host outside the retail. Okay, the good thing about this, as we said, that you can just put it inside the golden base image and things will be sent directly to the QRadar. You can filter by event ID, as we will learn how to filter inside the WinCollect agent. Actually guys, here the filtering was done by the subscription. Okay, the filtering was done by subscription. The WinCollect agent is coming next. So after the after the GBO is pushed on the point of sale, and the GBO will control which events subscribe both options, these two options, which that have the WIF, the GPO pushed on the point of sale registers is actually events matching the subscription are sent to the WIF. So the filtering is done at the WIF level. You can add filtering again, but the WIF is done in the first place at the WIF layer. Here you can control the events and filter them directly from the WinCollect agent. The problem with this one, that you have 4,500 agents. It's too much. 4,500 WinCollect agents, and if you have problem with 5-10 agents, the gathering the logs will be a problem, because it's not that easy to go to each and every point of sale in 500 stores to gather these logs. Okay, this option is to make the WinCollect agent installation on store, local domain controller, or server. So you are not using here the WIF collector. You just install the WinCollect agent, and it's doing remote polling of the point of sales devices in each store, and there is a line of sight between the domain controller and the event processor or collector. So you can use managed deployment or standalone deployment to get the logs. So if managed deployment, point of sale log sources will be added or deleted from the console as log source. If it's a standalone deployment, so this step is not required, and in both cases the auto discovery of the log sources will be done. However, as we said, for the managed deployment, you need to make the add and delete from the console. Okay, so the WinCollect agent installed on the store server on the domain controller. The WinCollect agent remote polls the point of sales. The WinCollect sends directly to the QRadar. You can filter by event ID to reduce the noise. Point of sale registers register to be pulled will need to be managed either from QRadar in case of the managed, or through SIEM or standalone deployment through some SIEM deployment tool. Okay, and this will be the ports in the two scenarios. Okay, the advantage, the management of agents is done from the QRadar console in case of managed deployment. Easier to make changes to what events are collected through the filtering of the WinCollect agent. However, the customer would be responsible for adding or subtracting the point of sale devices that agent is remote pulling. These use cases are very useful for planning also your WinCollect installation. Another example is large deployment. So we have like 15,000 endpoints, workstations, laptops, and 50 servers. So we have here, we are considering the high EPS servers, that these servers with limited resources, and they are very busy. And we have normal workstations or laptops, like but huge number, like 15,000. And we need to collect the security event logs and the Sysmon event logs. And as we will learn, Sysmon is providing very detailed logs from the endpoint. Okay, and also the customer wants to collect application, web, and mail servers. So the first scenario is to again use the WIF. Okay, the WIF is very useful solution in most of the cases. If this is not the case, خلاص, you have to check for your own deployment, like managed or standalone. Okay, we have several event collectors. So here we have WIF, multiple WIFs, because as Microsoft said that 10,000 endpoints per WIF server, so you can distribute among them. But please note that one may say 15,000 endpoint means that I just need 2 WIF server to cover the endpoint. So one will cover 10,000 and one will cover 5000, and maybe the second one covering the 5000 still has capacity, so I will use it for the 50 servers as well. So this is not the case, because these 50 servers may correspond to actually 10,000 endpoints, depending on how heavy this domain controllers and these servers are producing in terms of event per second. So remember, when we checked the test results of IBM, that one server may produce alone like 350 event per second. So it's like 350 endpoints if we consider one endpoint is producing 1 EPS per second. So actually these 50 servers may be considered like again 15,000 endpoint. So that's why this domain controllers and mail servers need to be distributed on 1 or 2 web servers, and then as we said, for the endpoints you can put like 7,500 here and 7,500 here. Okay, so you need to distribute the endpoints among multiple web servers, and the WinCollect agent installed on these web servers will monitor the forward event logs, and the forward events are then sent to the QRadar. Okay, so here these are high value production servers. So depending on the EBS generated, we can assign to one or many web servers. Okay, so the log sources are managed in QRadar, which allows for a quick turnaround in any config changes that may be required. So for this two web servers which have 2 agents, we will choose to manage them through the QRadar. So this is like a hybrid approach that we have here, or even for the 4, you can manage them through the QRadar console. So you can manage the configuration changes, because these servers are having the configuration changes from time to time. So this means that you need to manage the log sources from the console. Okay, and the endpoints are subscribed to using the GPO. Events are logged to the Windows events matching subscription are sent. Same thing here, these servers are already subscribed to these web servers. Okay, the disadvantage of this, that the IT must monitor the web servers to ensure they do not exceed the EBS thresholds, because they will send to the QRadar at the end of the day, and the GPO must be configured, and addition subtracting of events is handled by the subscription. Here it's a mix between the WIF and managed WinCollect. So WIF for the endpoints only, and managed WinCollect for the high value servers. Okay, this is good, and we removed one disadvantage of IT group must monitor the WIF servers. So we reduce the number of WIF servers. Here is a standalone deployment, so actually you will have one agent per endpoint. So 15,000 endpoints with 15,000 agents, and you have here whatever the number of high value servers you have agents. So these are high value and agents are installed on each, and the configuration is done by SIEM or whatever deployment tool. And same thing here, or they can be included in the golden master image, and they all send directly to the QRadar console or the event processor event collector, and you can filter directly with the WinCollect. Okay, the problem that you have to rely on the SIEM. The configuration changes is typically slow, because you need to rely on some tool to make this configuration change, or using the configuration console. Gathering the logs from endpoints to troubleshoot is taking time. No control of agents in QRadar. Remote poll deployment. Okay, so here as we said that for the maximum of 500 remote polls per agent. So since we have 15,000 endpoints, so divided by 500, so we will need 30 agents per endpoints. Okay, and this is what is mentioned here. So we need 30 agents collecting from 500 endpoints each for each agent, so total 15,000. So these 30 agents, considering that we want to make remote polling, okay, so no need to install like 15,000 agents like the case that we mentioned here in the standalone deployment. No, we just need 30 agents, and each agent will be responsible for 500. So this will make a complete coverage for the 15,000. Regarding the high value servers producing high EPS, if we are considering local collection, because this is the preferred method for the high EPS servers, so this 50 servers we can install like 50 agents. So actually 50 agents here plus 30 here makes 80, and we know that the maximum agents that we can manage is 500. So still we are good to go. So either using 50 agents locally on, or either use again remote poll and install one agent and collect from the domain controllers, but the preferred method is the local collection for the high EPS servers. So you can see here the agent is managed from QRadar, so the better to make remote management, and the maximum is 500. For the high value production server, local collection means 50 agents. If you can also use remote poll, so one to many servers in managed mode. Okay, so the remote poll maximum 500 endpoints, maximum EPS 2500. All of these sizing figures can help you choose the best approach for your deployment. If servers are turned off or are non-responsive, agent continues to poll. This is one of the disadvantage of the polling. Must apply correct permissions and firewall rules to all endpoints so they are reachable from agent server. So these are the two use cases that I recommend you guys to refer to and compare it with your deployment and choose the best option for your case. Okay, so what is the WinCollect all about? We already explained the difference between the two deployment modes, and next we can talk about the installation. The installation prerequisites for WinCollect is pretty easy. So for local collection, all you need is to have port 514 and port 8413 if you are considering the remote the managed deployment. And for remote collection, you need to have same ports as well, but from the WinCollect agent to the servers you need to have communication as well. So the WinCollect agent is installed on a single host here and collects events from multiple. Use remote collection, easy to easily scale. So these are the communication between things, the hardware requirements. We can just go through them quickly. So the communication, these are the ports that we spoke about, and you can check the range as we said for the dynamic ports. Okay, it's straightforward. Just you need port 514, and this port is used for managing the WinCollect agents to request and receive code and configuration updates. So create a bidirectional rule to allow communication from the WinCollect agent to QRadar on port 8413. So that, as we said, the arrow is bidirectional, so the QRadar can communicate to the agent and the agent can communicate back. If the rule is not bidirectional, traffic is blocked. QRadar does not send updates to the WinCollect agent. So mainly this port is used for managing the agents to request and receive configuration updates. Traffic is always initiated from the WinCollect agent and is sent over TCP. Communication is encrypted by the console public key and the configuration server.bim file on the agent. This is important. This certificate consideration should be always in your mind. In case of upgrades or something like this, you may need to make some changes here. Okay, so these are the ports for the remote polling. Okay, for the WinCollect agents. The hardware and software requirements are very straightforward. If you have high EPS, medium EPS, so these are the average EPS, the RAM, the CPU, the cores. These are straightforward, and here are software requirements. So you can collect from Windows 10, Windows Server 2012, 16, 19, 22, one WinCollect per host, and you need administrator or local administrator rights. Administrative permissions are not required for remote collection, okay, but it's required for local collection. Okay, what else we have here, guys? The prerequisites for upgrading. So these are the minimum RBM that you need for managed collection. So actually, for the managed deployment, you are not just installing a piece of software on the host that you will manage, the Windows host that you will manage from the QRadar console, but you need some RBM on the QRadar console itself, or the QRadar event processor or collector that is used to manage this Windows server. So some RBM is coming by default in the installation, so you have to check the version. This is the minimum version in case you are installing the WinCollect. Actually, this is coming through SFS bundle by from the IBM Central Fix Central. You can download. So for example, here in our case, I will check with you how to check this. So connecting to our QRadar, we can issue this command, okay, or simply the RPM QA, the one we talked about. So just search for WinCollect between two asterisk. Okay, I forgot the minus QA. Okay, guys, so you will see here the version that I have. So I have here agent WinCollect -7.5 something. So this is the minimum. So the one I have is higher than the minimum, so I'm okay. Checking the installed version is what exactly we did now. Okay, so we are ready for a managed deployment because the RBM is there. These are the different options for installation. So you can make managed WinCollect installation, standalone, and then this is how to make the installation in general, regardless of the deployment mode. The installation on Windows, the installation from the command prompt, okay, how to uninstall from command prompt, how to uninstall from the control panel. Okay, so for the managed Windows WinCollect installation, you need to install the WinCollect on the QRadar appliance. Actually, this is the SFS bundle that I was talking about. And then you need to create something called authentication token for the WinCollect agent. So it's kind of a pre-shared key between the the WinCollect agent and the QRadar console, so it knows that these are authentic agent to this is in case of the managed deployment. Okay, and adding multiple destinations to the WinCollect agent, so you can add multiple destinations, so in case of failover or something like this, this can be reliable, and some other useful things in case of migration or so this we already talked about this and this. So these are how to create an authentication token for the WinCollect agents. So actually creating authentication token is something that you need to do for not just the WinCollect agent, but for even installation of applications, as we will learn together. So generating authentication or authorized services, you have to go to the authorized services, and from here you can generate the authentication token. So actually creating is done from the authorized services. So you give service name and select the role. It depends on the usage of the authentication token. If you are using for WinCollect, you have to select WinCollect as a role, and the expiry is no expiry. Most of the time you will make no expiry. So let's do one for our case, because we will do together installation of managed WinCollect. So the authorized service label, we can name it WinCollect. The security profile, we can choose admin, and the role will be WinCollect. And here you turn this off to make it never expire, and save. When you make the authorized service token, you need to take a copy of it, because this is one time coming, and after that you will not be able to take it after that. So it's better that we take a copy of it. So you can show it once, copy it, and or even without showing it, and just paste here, so we can use it later. Okay, after you create, this is the name, and this is the you cannot show if you try to edit, you cannot show the authorized token again, this one. So that's why you need to take a copy of it first, and you need to make check if there is changes need to be deployed, if it's required. So fortunately it doesn't require to deploy anything. Okay, so this is the how to generate authentication token for WinCollect agents when you make managed deployment. Okay, here how to install on QRadar appliances. This is the SFS. So in case you don't have the right bundle, okay, you need to bring it or download it from the QRadar Fix Central, and then follow these steps, which is very straightforward, how to install the SFS bundle. And after the installation, so first you download it, and then you put in these passes, you create these folders, and then make this mount, and then just it tells you that it will cause service interruption while installation. So you have to choose one of the options. So just to restart the event collection service, or don't restart, or port the batch. If you choose the second option, so after sometime maybe in the low traffic periods, you come and deploy changes and restart the event collection service. So basically after you make the installation, you come here and choose deploy full configuration, and then restart event collection services. Fortunately we have the SFS bundle is there, so no need to download it. Okay, I will show you guys how to this is not required. I will show you guys how to download. So actually from the IBM Fix Central, okay, if you go there and you log in with your credential, okay, so let me log in. You can download the all things related to WinCollect. So simply you need first to search for IBM QRadar. Okay, yes, and then choose the version. Let's choose the latest one, Linux, and continue. Then you will go here, select text, and just type WinCollect. Okay, and press continue. You will get here all the things related to WinCollect. So we'll have mainly 5 options or 5 software to download. So the first option will be the SFS bundle, if I'm not mistaken. No, the first option will be actually the WinCollect 10. This is version 10, and this is the limitation about WinCollect 10, as we will talk at the end of this lesson, that the WinCollect 10 is only supported for standalone mode. So that's why, guys, I focused on this lesson on the WinCollect 7, because it is the full-fledged, let's say, release from IBM regarding WinCollect, which includes both modes, the standalone and managed, while the WinCollect 10 is still something new. It has a lot of improvements in terms of performance, but still it's limited only to standalone, and we will talk about it at the end. You have the 64-bit and the 32-bit versions. So you have the 1 and 2 are all about WinCollect 10. One for it's MSI installation, by the way, standalone, and this is the MSI 32-bit. The third one will be okay, so this one is also Windows 10, but this is an older version. So this is important, guys, to check the version, the date as well, and the version. So always go for the latest one. As we said, QRadar always or IBM always support, the IBM support always support the latest N or N-1 version of any software. So better to choose the latest always. Okay, for this is the old one again. So we have two old one, and then this one is the WinCollect standalone batch installer. We will talk about this. This is for the configuration console. We will talk about what is configuration console and the update. So this you choose if you have an existing version of WinCollect and you want to upgrade, or you want to install the configuration console for the standalone deployment, where you want to manage the configuration of multiple standalone devices, WinCollect agents. This is the WinCollect version 7. This is the WinCollect itself. Okay, and this is for the 32, and this for 64, and there is here some ABR reference. This means that there is some bug that you need to be aware of, that WinCollect agents not installed on the C drive can remove entries from the agent config file during an upgrade. So agent config.xml is nothing but the configuration of the WinCollect agent. So if you are doing an upgrade, actually you can use the WinCollect software itself to make the upgrade, or the batch. Okay, but if you are using the WinCollect upgrade and you make the and the installation was not on the C drive for some reason, this may not preserve the old configuration, and if you are doing the upgrade, it can override your agent config file. So this is something you have to be aware of, and it's a non-issue highlighted here by IBM. Okay, again the same thing. This is the 32, this is 64, and finally the SFS bundle that you need to install on the QRadar console itself if you are considering managed deployment. And fortunately we have it already. It satisfy the minimum RBM requirement. Okay, so returning back to our discussion, we have all the software installed, downloaded for us. So let's continue. We finished the managed installation, so now the standalone WinCollect installation. So there is some concept here called the configuration console. So in standalone deployment, you can use the WinCollect configuration console to manage your WinCollect deployment. So it's like an alternative to the managed deployment mode, where you can control the WinCollect installations from the QRadar console. So for the standalone deployment, you can use something called WinCollect configuration console to manage the WinCollect deployment in standalone mode. Use the WinCollect configuration console to add devices that you want WinCollect to collect agents from, to collect events from, I think it's, and add the IBM QRadar destination where you want to send events. So how to install the configuration console, how to silently install it, upgrading, uninstalling it. So all of this are regarding the configuration console, and this is actually done using the batch installer. So actually this is the one I'm referring to. So this one is regarding if you want to upgrade the WinCollect, if you want to upgrade the WinCollect agents, so the WinCollect batch installer, as you can read here, is intended to update WinCollect agents on Windows hosts that are disconnected from the console appliance. In other words, it's not managed by the console, it's standalone, and can also install the WinCollect configuration console interface for log source configuration, destinations, and agent changes. So it has two functionalities inside this batch, and when you make the installation, you can choose only to make the WinCollect update, the code update, or to just install the configuration console. So it's case by case. Okay, so here is how to silently install, upgrade this batch installer, and also how to set the XPath parameter during the automatic installation. Okay, so this is configuration console options that you can control the disk manager. The disk manager can control the disk space to buffer the events, the capacity, the the status server for heartbeats, the either to choose syslog TCP or syslog UDP, to set some throttle on the events per second sent to destination. Okay, the device parameter contains available device types. Under each device type, you can view or update multiple device parameters. Okay, here the installation of the configuration console. It's straightforward. Just download the batch and run it. This is how to do it like in interactive mode. If you want to do it in silent mode, you need to run this /qn to make it quiet. But the prerequisite for this, that you need to have the WinCollect agent already installed, and then you can add the installation directory of the configuration console along with the command, or if you upgrade the WinCollect standalone, you can just do this. So actually you can upgrade the WinCollect agents by using the agent installer only. This is normal. Using the Windows Collect agent, you can make an installation or upgrade. However, this is the way to upgrade, the typical way for upgrading the WinCollect standalone deployment is to use the batch. Okay, so if you want to upgrade the WinCollect standalone batch by using the following command. If you want to uninstall the WinCollect configuration console, is by this command. So actually, the default, if you type the command with nothing, it will install and or upgrade the WinCollect standalone batch and the WinCollect configuration console. This is unless you specify this parameter, which will just focus on the WinCollect component. Okay, so this we will try together as well. If you want to install the WinCollect agent, itself. So let's do this first. So installing the WinCollect agent on Windows host. So you need to be aware of the different parameters that we will see together when we make the interactive installation. So the host identifier, authentication token, so this is for managed setup. The authentication token, the configuration server, this will be the IP address of the QRadar console. Create log source. If this checkbox is selected, you must provide information about the log source and the target destination. Log source name, the name can be the log source identifier, a lot of options. We will go through them when we make the installation. If you want to make this installation from the command line, it's available, and this is silent installer, so you can do this from Microsoft SIEM or any other deployment tool. So these are the different parameters. If you want to make a managed deployment, you have to put the authentication token. So the different parameters are here actually. For each parameter we have a description, and for things that relates to standalone, you will find some comment here that this applies only for standalone. Like here, the destination port, you have to give the host name, the IP address host name where you send the WinCollect events, and the destination protocol, the maximum payload size. If you want to log security, system, application, all of the channels for events, you can set. This is the thing I told you, that there are 3 profiles. Default is endpoint, typical plus server, high and rate. So you can configure tuning profiles, but this is only for the managed deployment. This parameters, guys, are not available for the managed deployment, because in the managed deployment actually you are configuring, it's enough to configure the full host, because this is the QRadar address, and the QRadar will take care of the destination. The QRadar will take care of the destination naming. Actually, you put the destination name values that you specify where WinCollect log source sends event data, and this value must be a QRadar appliance capable of receiving. In managed deployment, the destination must be an internal destination, and the name must exist in QRadar. So actually you have 2 types: internal destination, which means a managed host with an event processor component like the console or the event processor collector, or the external destination, which means that you are configured that you configure the WinCollect destination and is not known to the console. So it's any server, but it's not managed by the QRadar. So it's not a managed deployment of the WinCollect. So this parameter should be configured to internal destination or external destination. In case of managed deployment, it should be an internal destination, and this destination should be configured on the QRadar. Otherwise, all the parameters that you configure later will be discarded. Okay, so this we will go through when we make the installation as well, and these are 2 examples. So this is the syntax. So you just put the WinCollect name, and then again you can make it silently, and the installation directory, authentication token if it's managed deployment, and this is the full console address, host name, and then the log source auto creation. This is important, and the log source auto creation parameter. So the log source auto creation enabled means that if you enable this option, you must configure the log source parameters. So and also these are the parameters. So 2 options. If this is enabled, you have to enable this or to configure this one, and the parameters are separated with ampersand this letter. So if we check here the example, the configuration parameters, the log source configuration parameters. So for example, here it's enabled, the log source auto creation enabled is true. The log source auto creation parameters are, for example, the agent device sending is device Windows log. The action is create. The log source name is the computer name. So this percentage, computer name percentage, will return for you the computer. So it's a variable to create the name of the computer. The log source identifier, the IP address, destination name is the QRadar, the destination host name, the IP address where you are sending the logs for this log source, and so on. So this is for standalone, and this is for managed, where here the only difference we can notice here the authentication token and the tuning profile. Okay. Setting the XPath parameter. So XPath is nothing but the it's a value for or it's a pointer for some channel, non-standard channel for logs. So if we check here the event viewer, okay, so you can check here, for example, the XPath for non-standard. So the standard logs are inside the Windows logs, like the application security system, okay. And by the way, forward events will be there if you are configuring this server or this machine as a collector web server, and others are sending to it. So you will find the forwarding events here. In my case, I'm not configuring any collection for remote PCs. So under the applications and services logs, you can see logs for other non-standard events. So inside this one, you can just get the XPath for some channel and just put it along with the configuration of your WinCollect. Okay. So for example, here, if I go for Microsoft Windows, and I go for, let's say, PowerShell. Okay, so I'm looking for PowerShell. So here is PowerShell. So this operational logs of the PowerShell, if I want to include in my simply I can right click and select create custom view, and then I go to the second tab, which is XML, and then I can copy this into Notepad and take it, put inside the XPath. So this is how to convert your XPath to base 64 encoding. So any free web service to just convert this, the same that we have got here. So to convert this to some base 64 encoding like this letters, you can use any web service, and then you can include along with the installation. So actually this is the same thing that we did in the here when we installing the WinCollect, okay, using these different parameters. The only thing here is this base 64. I hope it was there. It wasn't there, so it's there in this article, where you need to put something called custom query. So the same thing that we did before, that this is the log source auto creation enabled true. So we have put the log source auto creation parameters. We included everything as before, including the even the standard logs. So the system logs are included, the security logs are included, the application logs are included, and also we included here this XPath, which points to the PowerShell logs if this base 64 conversion corresponds to the PowerShell. Okay, and for sure you need to replace any variables here, like here just they put valid IP address. You can put your IP address. So all of these are good references, guys, to the syntax for command for your installation of the WinCollect agent. So instead of doing the interactive installation, you can do it from the command prompt. These are the different parameters, and the key here is the /qn, which makes the installation silent. Okay, and you can add the XPath as well. And here is how to make the uninstallation. So simply you issue this, and this product ID points to our WinCollect. So this will remove all the files, or you can remove just the WinCollect application using this one. Again, this is silent on installation, and you can remove it from the control panel. Okay, so I finished the theoretical part. I know it's quite long, but this was important to set the foundation. We talked about many things. I'm just wrapping up that we talked about the different deployment scenarios, the different collection scenarios. So we have two main deployment techniques, like standalone or managed, and we have two collection techniques: local collection, remote collections. We knew about some limits, like in the managed mode, you can collect from or you can manage 500 agents. With standalone, you can have more than 500 agents per managed host. In the local collection, you can collect like 5,000 EPS. For the managed for the remote collection, maximum is 2,500 from 500 endpoints. So we talked about two use cases. We checked the different installation options, and also we talked about the SFS bundle for that you need to install the QRadar console. We talked about the batch file that you can use for installing the Windows, for installing the configuration console, and the silent ways of doing the installation. Okay, so in the next lesson we will do this, the hands-on of all of these scenarios, and to just make sure that we grasp the concept very well. I dedicated 2 lessons for the WinCollect because any environment, or 99% of the deployments, will include Windows logs, and you need to plan this properly. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next lesson.